Welcome to Jumpstart Justice, a rapid briefing and take action opportunity from the Workers' Circle. I'm Noelle D'Amico, Director of Social Justice. Thanks for being with us. Following the program, we'll send you an email with additional resources, including the slides. If you're viewing a recording of our live program, just fill out the Count Me In form and you'll also receive this information. Before we get started, do make sure you have your phone handy. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to claim lives and destroy the livelihoods of people across the nation. It has created new challenges for states and the post office as they race to manage unprecedented increases in mail-in ballots and to ensure safe in-person voting. Today, we welcome Jonathan Taubes, Social Justice Associate at the Workers' Circle, who will discuss urgent provisions that need to be included in the Senate COVID-19 package. Following his briefing, we'll take action together by calling our senators. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks, Noelle, and hello to fellow Workers' Circle activists. Make no mistake, there is still a severe economic crisis that's accompanying the health crisis posed by the COVID pandemic. There are more than 12.58 million unemployed. 18 million children are food insecure, 40 million people are facing eviction, and these are only some of the staggering statistics resulting from the pandemic. Behind every one of these numbers are stories of workers laid off, whose unemployment checks have stopped coming, food banks where each day hundreds of cars line up to pick up food, and families worried because they haven't been able to pay rent for months. And American families and communities are still waiting for Congress to provide some relief in the face of these crises. So let me recap the state of play so far. On May 12th, the House passed a $3 trillion COVID relief package, the HEROES Act, a much needed follow-up to the $2.2 trillion CARES Act, enacted in late March. The House passed bill included an extension of unemployment benefits, additional stimulus money to families, and badly needed aid to state and local governments, among other provisions. Notably, the bill partially addressed the exclusion of immigrants that kept the CARES Act relief bill from providing help to some of the neediest families in our country today, ensuring millions of immigrant taxpayers left out of the initial government response would finally get their stimulus checks. For months, however, the Senate has delayed acting on the COVID relief that communities across this country so desperately need. They've refused to even consider the House-passed HEROES bill. Finally, probably worried about optics with an election coming soon, the Senate Majority Leader took what was called a skinny COVID relief bill to the floor in early September. $300 billion that did not go nearly far enough in addressing the economic crisis. Senate Minority Leader Schumer quipped that this skinny bill was, in fact, an emaciated one. The bill lacked, among other things, any housing assistance whatsoever. It contained no aid to badly stretched local and state government budgets, to say nothing of immigrant families who were likewise totally excluded. The bill did not pass, and pressure to provide relief has only mounted in the weeks since then. In response, Speaker Pelosi and House Democrats put together yet another bill with a lower price tag than the HEROES Act. This bill, which passed the House on October 1st, just a few days ago, included support for small businesses, additional assistance for the airline industry, more funds for schools and childcare, $600 weekly unemployment payments through next January, rent and mortgage assistance, new resources to ensure safe elections and preserve the postal services, and additional one-time stimulus payments. Now, in light of the Workers' Circle's history and our belief that the US must respect the fundamental dignity of immigrants and recognize the contributions they make to our communities and our economy, the Workers' Circle has been advocating continuously for inclusion of immigrants in COVID relief. We are pleased to see that this slimmed down HEROES Act takes some important steps that benefit immigrant families. For one, it clarifies that immigrants who otherwise aren't eligible for full scope Medicaid because of their immigration status, but who do meet other Medicaid eligibility requirements, can get free COVID-19 testing, treatment, and vaccines through emergency Medicaid. We are also pleased that the bill extends stimulus payments to anyone filing taxes with an ITIN number, which is an official number available to those workers ineligible for Social Security and for their family members who were unjustly excluded from the last round of checks that went out earlier this year. And there are also some limited provisions to expand language access in some of these programs. Many frontline workers on whom we depend during this pandemic are immigrants. We know that immigrants are disproportionately likely to be exposed to the virus. As an organization founded by immigrants 120 years ago, we know that they deserve to be included in relief legislation. And we're going to advocate tirelessly for that goal, because not only is it simply the right thing, but for us here, it is deeply, deeply personal. Unfortunately, one of the biggest barriers to seeking care and services for immigrants is the racist wealth test known as the public charge rule. Fear that accessing government services will impact their future immigration status and their ability to stay in this country has kept too many immigrants from seeking healthcare or even emergency food programs. Several courts have tried to suspend the public charge rule during this pandemic, but those efforts have been undone by the Supreme Court. The Workers' Circle strongly urges Congress to suspend the implementation of the public charge rule in any COVID relief package. The COVID relief should also contain at least $4 billion for states to implement safe voting procedures during this time of pandemic, and $25 billion for the US Post Office that is handling record levels of mail-in ballots. The Brennan Center for Justice has underscored that it's not too late for states to receive financial assistance that will help them prior to the 2020 election, including printing extra emergency and provisional ballots, hiring additional poll workers and vote counting workers, and equipment like letter openers, one-use pens, and signature verification software. Shamefully, negotiations over a new COVID relief plan were abruptly cut off by the president, who then just as abruptly changed course and supported some limited targeted assistance. There is still overall confusion as to whether talks will continue or whether they won't. But the bottom line is this: the Senate has still yet to act on a COVID relief bill. Now, I don't know about you, but that makes me angry, and I think we've got to try to do something about it. So in a minute, Noel will explain how we can get in touch with our senators today to insist that they pass a COVID relief bill that assists states and cities, provide funds to help ensure a safe election, including assisting the Postal Service, and include stimulus and emergency services to immigrants, along with suspension of the public charge rule. Families are hurting, states and cities are hurting, and businesses are hurting. And the capacity of our voting system to handle safe in-person and mail-in voting right now is strained and must be strengthened immediately. We must demand that the Senate act now to provide adequate, comprehensive, and inclusive relief.
Thanks, Jonathan. Jonathan, many of us may be wondering, given the back and forth between the president and the Senate leadership, whether it makes sense to call our senators and ask that they fully fund COVID-19 relief when they seem dead set against it.
Yeah, well, Noel, in fact, it's actually essential that our senators hear from us about how much people are suffering and how urgent this relief is. I mean, it's a fantastic question, but we have to understand that first off, like I mentioned, the president has been back and forth on the question of negotiations for further assistance. So we're not exactly sure where that stands, but in the meantime, every time we let our senators know that we prioritize this, it warns those of our senators who are against a comprehensive relief package that their constituents are opposed to what they're doing. And then our calls also strengthen the hand of those of our senators who are pushing for comprehensive COVID-19 relief as they still negotiate.
Thanks, Jonathan. And now it's up to us. Get your phone ready as we prepare to call the Capitol switchboard. For those of you who it's your first time, when you call the switchboard, you'll either be received by an operator or reach a robotic voice that will permit you to say which state you're calling from and to identify which senator you would like to speak with. Once you're connected to one of your senator's offices, you'll introduce yourself. For example, I'd say, "Hi, I'm Noelle D'Amico. I'm calling from White Plains, New York." And then feel free to leave a message. Oftentimes, the offices are not staffed right now due to COVID-19, but they do check and take seriously the messages that are left. So if you get an answering machine, be sure to let them know. All right, grab your phones and let's get calling. I see that one of our participants has reached Senator Warner from Virginia and left a message. I reached Senator Gillibrand. As you're reaching your senators, add them into the chat line so that we know that these messages are being received. We're so glad to see people reaching their senators in New York, in New Jersey, in Virginia. We're going to leave that final slide up as We close our program now so that you who are on the calls can continue to have it in front of you. If you only reached one of your senators, call your others. And remember that you'll get this slide along with a recording of the program following our session together. We appreciate that you joined us for Jumpstart Justice today, and I want to remind you that you can access and share this program on Facebook once it's posted later today. We'll not be holding additional Jumpstart Justice sessions in the near future, but we do encourage you to join us this Saturday, October 10th at 6 p.m. for an interview with Liz Garbus, director of the acclaimed documentary All In for Democracy, and to also join us next Thursday, October 15th at 7 p.m. for a courageous conversation with Andrea Miller from the Center for Common Ground on how you can help combat voter suppression right now. Visit the event calendar at circle.org for more information. Thank you again for being with us for Jumpstart Justice, and take care.